and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie, and for this vlog I am reading 5 winter horror / thriller books. I'm so excited. It is the perfect season for reading some really intense winter themed horror. So I have 5 books on my list and we are going to get into them. We're going to talk about obviously what they are, the writing style, and just the general winter vibes. Do they hit the winter vibes that are promised in their synopsis or on their cover? So we're gonna get into all of that. I have 5 books to read and I'm trying to get them all done in the month of January. So let's get to it. Hello, good morning. It's a beautiful morning. The sun is shining, and although that it's like the opposite of the vibes for this book, I'm not going to lie. I need the sunshine. I am excited to be able to go outside, and I've put in my audiobook and like walk for several hours, and it's really great. Yeah, I do not live in a place that has a real winter. So even though I'm reading all these like wintry horror books, I'm not, the outside is not reflective of that. But I used to live in a really, really wintry place. I grew up in a very wintry place. So I can very clearly picture the snowy landscapes and what it feels like. And to start off, I will tell you about the book that I am reading today, and that is Misery by Stephen King, the classic. And this takes place in Colorado, and that is where I grew up. I grew up in the mountains of Colorado, so very exciting. We know Stephen King has lots of associations with Colorado, The Shining, Misery, probably more. I actually don't know that much about Stephen King. I've only read one Stephen King, and that was The Stand, and I was like in middle school, and that was probably like too much for my little child brain. I don't remember much of it. I don't remember much of Stephen King's writing style, but I do know that a lot of people really love Misery, even if they're not like big horror fans or big Stephen King fans. This is like a pretty universally loved book. So I'm excited. I'm excited to dive in. I obviously know the premise. I don't really know. I've never seen the movie, even though Kathy Bates is like an icon. We love her, but I've never seen the movie. So I don't know actually what happens in this. I just know the premise of the guy getting tortured by the author getting tortured by his #1 fan, which like, it's just funny to me because it's Stephen King. Like, I would be curious to know what events in his life spurred him to write this book. I'm just curious. Yeah, so I'll be starting this today. I'm very excited for it. And then the other book that I am actually halfway through, yay, we love a reading update, a real update. I'm halfway through Moon of the Crusted Snow by, oh my gosh, I am going to pronounce his name incorrectly. Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice. Yeah, so Moon of the Crusted Snow is a book that is set in a rural community in Canada. It's actually an indigenous reservation, and this is the Anishinaabe community, and this is so interesting because it's set on a reservation, and the Anishinaabe people, what's really cool is that there's actual like language, like they actually speak their language in the book. And I'm listening to this on audiobook, by the way, so I'm not seeing the physical words, but the person who is reading the audiobook, he's clearly Canadian. I don't know if he himself is actually Anishinaabe, but The way he pronounces all of the language is really, really beautiful. And so that's been just really cool. And so Moon of the Crusted Snow is a very grounded apocalyptic story. And these are some of my favorite kinds of apocalypse horrors because it is really like at its core a survival story, and it's very like what would happen in our real world. And I also think that like an indigenous community is such an interesting place to set an apocalyptic story because they are a community that would perhaps be forgotten by, you know, the governments and just, I mean, obviously in an apocalyptic situation, it's kind of everybody for themselves. But the thing is that they already have to fend for themselves. Basically, they don't have a lot of help or resources from the government. So they are already like surviving on their own out in this like frozen tundra, basically, which puts them at a specific advantage in an apocalyptic situation because they know how to survive. And we have characters who are like regular hunters. They know how to get food for themselves. They don't rely on like grocery stores and things. And then, I mean, like there are people in the community that do, but we are following a character who is very self-reliant and self-sufficient, which again, like that's like my favorite kind of apocalyptic story, one that's super grounded and that's following a really capable protagonist. Those are like two of my like big things. When I started reading this book, I did not even know what this book was about. Truly, I was like, honestly, I was enticed by the title, the cover, and the fact that it was like a winter horror. And I'm halfway through the book, and I like the horror element is like very slight. I don't even know if at this point I would call it a horror because there's only been like, there is this like looming kind of dread, like they don't know what's going on. They don't know why things are happening, but it's very like in the distance right now because they don't have information. And then also there's not been much description of like any kind of like graphic violence. There was just one scene and it honestly was not very graphic at all. You can imagine the horror in the situation, but it wasn't described and it wasn't like very like in that moment. So right now at 50% of the way, it's not much of a horror, but it is a kind of like suspenseful apocalyptic story, though it is quite a bit of a slow burn, but it's short. Like the audiobook is only like 7 hours, but I listen on 2 times speed, so that's only 3.5 hours. So like it's a slow burn, but it moves. I mean, it's not that long of a story. So all that is to say, I'm really enjoying it, and I really went in with like no expectations at all, and I'm just really happy with it so far. I'm excited to see the ending, and I think that it spotlights a community that I did not know anything about personally, but I love apocalypse stories that center around like very specific kinds of people that actually like can survive in an apocalypse. Listen, if an apocalypse happens, like there's no way I'm surviving. like straight up, I have no survival skills. So respect to those people that do. Yeah, all right, so I'm about to dive into Misery. I've actually started, I think, read the first 10 pages, and I'm kind of shocked that it jumps right in. There is literally no setup. There is just, it's like, you know the premise. We don't need to tell you what's happening. Like, you knew when you picked up this book what you were getting into. It's just jumps right in, which respect to Stephen King for that, because I really thought I was going to have to sit through like 3 chapters of setup. And to be honest, I was already like, in my head, I was already bored before I even started reading the book. So the fact that it is just, we're not even doing any of that, you know, I see why he's a legend. I really do. Okay, I'm going to read, and I will see you later. Hi, It is several hours later. Oh, that's really sunny. Okay, let me just come back here. Is that better? Is that worse? Seems worse. Okay. Okay, how about this? It's several hours later, and I ordered Panera on Uber Eats. It took 2 hours to get here, so probably not a good decision for several different reasons. I got this agave lemonade because it said that I had a promo where if I spent $20, I'd get 50% off. So obviously had to buy the lemonade and the cookies and all that jazz. But let's talk reading updates. I got to page 75 in Misery, and I don't know, man. I think this is gonna be a, like, it's not you, it's me situation, because I'm not enjoying it right now, but I don't think that there's like a ton wrong with it. I think I just don't, I don't know. I don't know if it's just that, like, it's uncomfortable to read and that's the idea. So, like, again, like, it might just be me, but also, like, I just don't know if I think what I need is a more likable main character to kind of, like, drive my desire for, like, him to be out of the situation. I don't even know if that's fair to say. Like, to be honest, like, I don't even know why specifically I'm not enjoying it right now. Also, I just, like, this is such a long book. This is like 400 pages, and I'm only on 75, so I'm, like, just scratching the surface of the horrible things that are about to go down here, and I just don't know if I am interested enough to, like, sit through that. Like, do I really care enough about this character to know how he's gonna get out of it? Because the thing is, like, he's not particularly smart right now. Like, it's one thing if the character is, like, really clever and just, like, continually, like, coming up with these really clever thoughts, and it's like, okay, like, I want to see how he gets out of it, and I believe that he can come up with something insane, like, I want to see. Like, I'm not feeling that right now. Mostly I'm just feeling like, dang, like, this is, like, a pretty hopeless situation, and I'm just gonna have to sit and wait for him to even, like, have any amount of strength to be able to get out of this. So, yeah, again, like, that's the idea. So, it's not, I don't think it's the book. I think it's me on this one, but we'll see. I'm gonna go on a walk, and I'm super late on my walk. That's bad. Blaming Panera for that one. And I'm going to listen to more of Moon of the Crusted Snow. Good evening. I have had a long day of doing not much besides reading, which is great. I am halfway through Misery, and I kind of don't know how to feel about it right now. I think, like, I definitely was intimidated in the beginning about the length because I was so shocked that it really does not have any setup and it just jumps right into the action, which really surprised me. But then there was, like, so much suspense up front that I was like, how can this be sustained for 400 pages? And of course it can't. There's quite a bit of not dead space in the middle, but I think a big chunk in the middle of this book, kind of like the forward momentum stops a little bit. And, like, it's not bad. Like, I'm still entertained, and Stephen King is a very compelling writer. Like, he makes you want to read more. But it's the thing with me, is just like, I don't need a book to be 400 pages and then just have so little forward momentum in the middle. But I get it. I get why it's there. I understand everything that he's doing. Also, I mean, a large part of this book is about being an author and the process of writing a novel. And that's just such a large part of this story. And so it's like all of Stephen King just like rambling about his thoughts on writing a novel for like a large chunk of the book. So yeah, but that being said, I mean, I have been enjoying it, I guess. Like, I have been engaged. And I'm flying through it faster than I expected to. I really had no idea what I was going to feel about this book. So I still like don't think I've made up my mind. It's both like more and less gruesome than I thought it was going to be. It's both like more and less terrifying in a way. I don't know. Honestly, I my thoughts on this book are jumbled at this point, and I think it'll really depend on how it ends, but I'm having an okay time with it so far, and I think by the end I will have been happy that I read it, even if I don't know if this is going to be a favorite, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it ends. Hello, good morning. It is kind of a gray day outside. It's 44 degrees, which probably to people who are actually in a cold place, that's not cold, but compared to what we normally are seeing, it's cold today. It's cold today, and it's fitting. This is fitting the winter theme a little bit better. And on that, we are talking about Misery, because I have just finished it. Misery by Stephen King. Wow. I still don't really know how I feel about this. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 stars, and honestly, it probably deserves more than that. It probably deserves closer to like a 4 stars, but like just for the writing, the technical, the craft of the book and of the story, I think it was really well done. I just have to like think about my personal enjoyment and like just like my general feelings about it. And because I just feel I don't know how I feel coming out of this book, so I guess we can just talk about it and see kind of what I'm just not loving about it, because I think there are like a lot of things I really like about this book and an equal amount that I kind of don't really love. So of course, if you know the story of Misery, or if you are aware of this premise, it's pretty gruesome, that is for sure. There is a lot of body horror, and it definitely delivers on its premise. Just for those that are unfamiliar, this is the story of a novelist who is kidnapped in the Rocky Mountains by this woman named Annie, who claims that she is his biggest fan. Annie is kind of out of her mind with some sort of psychosis, and the result is that she ends up torturing him for like upwards of about a year, which I did not know. I honestly thought that this book, which I had no former knowledge of, but like prior knowledge of, that's what I meant to say. I had no prior knowledge of really, other than like the fact that the novelist gets kidnapped and tortured. I didn't really know anything else about it. And like, I thought that this story took place over the span of like maybe 2 weeks, but no, this book takes place over like nearly a year. So it's like really prolonged experience, and the book comes in at 350 pages, so it definitely spends its time. So yes, it does deliver on the premise, but actually not as much as I thought it was going to, especially like my edition of the book says Annie wants Paul to write his greatest work just for her. She has a lot of ways of spurring him on. One is a needle, another is an axe, and then there's the blowtorch. I really don't feel like that's a fair description of what happens. I mean, like, certainly those things come up, but it's that is quite misleading, actually. And so, but that's just what I assumed that the book was based on my like very limited prior knowledge of it, and I don't feel like that description really helped. And also on the back of this book, it says tightly spun yarn that had me on edge for days after I finished it. I don't really think that it has, like, it definitely has tension, and it definitely has, like, scary moments, and like I said, quite an amount of body horror, but the tension is not super evenly dispersed. It's like really tense for the first 100 pages, and then there's quite a bit of a lull, and then it picks back up at the end of the book. And that lull is because this is something I did not know about this book, but a large amount of this book is dedicated to the author, the novelist in the story, writing a book. And it's discussed at length his like feelings about writing the book, and like obviously his feelings about his circumstance, but you can definitely feel Stephen King kind of coming out talking about what it's like to write a novel. And I'm not even saying that this is bad. Like, I actually didn't hate any part of this book. I just felt that it did make the pacing a bit uneven. Not terrible though. That's the thing. This, like I said, technically for like the craft, I really think this could be like a 4-star book. But for pure enjoyment, I felt a little bit just kind of, I don't know, like the tension wasn't in the right place sometimes. But I still liked a lot of the book. I didn't care for the book inside of the book. I just like really like could not care less. But luckily that doesn't take up too much time, but like it's there. What else? Also just, I mean, I kind of knew this coming in because previously I had only ever read one Stephen King, and that was like a long time ago. I don't remember much of it, but as an adult, I've kind of like, when I've thought about returning to Stephen King, I've been kind of like, I don't know if his writing is really for me, because I don't think it's like the most like literary or like poetic, and some of the things that he, like his phrases, I'm just kind of like, ugh, I don't like them. There is a couple of those in here for sure, like Paul, the novelist, is our main character, and sometimes he thinks things and I'm just like, is this how men like walk through the world? I mean, I know it is, but like, I don't like to be reminded of that. And also, like, he says something at the end of the book that I just was just like, why was that necessary? Why was that necessary? I did not like that. So just like, I knew this about Stephen King's writing. I knew that there would be some things that like language things that I would just need to get over, especially this is one of his earlier works, written I think in like, I don't even know. 87. So like, yeah, probably he wouldn't say some of these things today, but you know, it's not actually terrible. It's just something I didn't love. Yeah, so that's why I just like really, I'm kind of right in the middle of this book. I am happy that I read it because this is such a classic, a horror classic, and I know that a lot of people who even don't love horror have enjoyed this book, which is, I mean, kind of surprising because, again, cannot overstate that there is blood and gore and there is torture in this book. So it's not a pleasant reading experience. Like, it's a good story. It's not always fun to read. But I am happy that I read it. I don't know that I would really ever read it again. I'm like, well, yeah, checked that off my list. Did that. I don't see myself ever returning to it. But I think it, you know, it's a Stephen King classic. Like, it stood the test of time for a reason. I wish I had more like distinct feelings about it, because really I'm just kind of like, yeah, I read it. It was solid. It's probably not going to make my favorites going forward. So I don't know. I might get a copy for myself just to like have it on my shelf and be like, yeah, I really did read Misery. That actually did happen. So I don't know. I'm rambling because my thoughts on this book are just like so just everywhere. But it is a winter horror, although it takes place over the course of a whole year. So we go through multiple seasons, not just this like snowy thing. And the thing is, I thought the snow would come into it more. The snow is not really in it. So that kind of disappointed me. I wanted more winter horror vibes, but it's really just, I guess that's not the point of the story. All right, that's it. That's Misery by Stephen King, 3.5 stars. Okay, semi-crisis averted. I was able to grab my partner's car so I could get to the library, and yes, we have many books. So the next two I am reading, first will be The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. A typical, I think, like, pretty generic thriller. A house in the middle of a winter storm gets a visitor and things go bad. And then the next one is No Exit by Taylor Adams, which I have been waiting to read for a long time. This is apparently it says a full throttle thriller. And I believe it's about a girl who is at this like rest stop on a Colorado road in the middle of a blizzard. A bunch of people get stranded there, and apparently one of them is a horrible murderer. So that sounds fun. Hey, hi, hello. Okay, it is much later in the evening, and the beautiful plans that I had to read more today, just completely gone. I've made myself a cup of tea, and in doing so, I realized that this is my last Tazo Zen tea bag that I have. I'm on my last cup of Zen, which is just, I mean, like, if that's not a metaphor for my life right now, wow, yeah. Anyway, I have my this is cozy winter ambiance in the background. I will try to link this one that I have. It's like a winter jazz reading playlist. So I am gonna try to read. It's like literally it's 8 p.m. right now, which is a lot later than I had hoped to start my reading for the day. But I do have some good news, and that is that I have finished Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig. I'm so sorry, I'm pronouncing this completely, I'm butchering this name. Waubgeshig Rice. I have finished that, my audiobook for today, and wow. Okay, let's talk about Moon of the Crusted Snow. So to be honest, like, I did not know anything about Moon of the Crusted Snow. I picked it up for its cover alone, pretty much. I was expecting a generic winter horror, and what I got was, like, kind of mind-blowing, honestly. This is an apocalypse novel, but it's very grounded. And what I mean by that is that you don't really know, like, the cause of the apocalypse. It's nothing like, it's not this like big massive entity like a zombie or, I mean, I don't know, aliens, whatever, what other things cause apocalypse. It's like very grounded. And the reason that you don't really know what is causing the apocalypse is because the book follows an indigenous community in Canada, in northern Canada. They're very disconnected from the rest of the world. So to them, really what they're experiencing is first and foremost like a blackout, a lack of all their power, and then they are completely just disconnected. They have no resources coming in from the south, from the cities, so they're completely fending for themselves. This is honestly like a very literary forward novel, which again, I was completely not expecting that. I was just thinking, you know, I just thought this was going to be like a little winter thriller thing. I didn't expect that it was going to be this kind of really grounded, literary, like beautiful piece of work. I definitely gave it 4 stars. I was really happy with it. It's not like horror. I know this is like a winter horror vlog, but Moon of the Crusted Snow is not horror. It's barely even thriller, because there is like definitely a sense of dread with the fact that they're in this semi-apocalypse, but the fact is that they actually handle the situation very well because they are suited to surviving. Like, they just, as a community, they have had to survive many horrible things in the past, and they have to survive on their own. They have really just each other to look out for, and so that community bond is a big part of the story. Yes, it's an apocalypse story, but it's really about this community, this indigenous community that come together to survive the worst. And what is really great is that it definitely has a message. It definitely has something to say. And while it's not the most it's not the most original message in the world, it's still like very valuable, very, like, you really feel these characters and what they're going through, and it's just, you can empathize with them so much. Wow, I really was not expecting this going into this book, and it was really great, and I think that a lot more people should be reading this book, especially people love an apocalypse story. This is a great one. And some of the things that, like, the way that it incorporates the Anishinaabe, which is the indigenous community, that's their tribe, the way that it incorporates their culture and their kind of, as they call, like, the old ways once the apocalypse hits, is just really moving. And it's really cool that we get to hear the language. Again, I listened to this on audiobook, so the person who was reading the audiobook actually was able to, like, do all the pronunciation of the Anishinaabe words, and that was really cool. I just really had a good time with this. It's not scary. There is, like, a teensy tiny dash of, like, a little bit of gore, but honestly, it's really not much, and it's not described at length, and it's quick. It's not prolonged by any means. So yeah, if you like apocalypse stories, but not all the, like, grim and gore that comes with apocalypse, that could be a book that you pick up. I honestly would, like, read this book in class. Like, if I was a professor, I would teach and I would have them read this book, because it's just, it's something special. I really enjoyed it. Okay, moving on to the next two books on this list, which I showed you already, but I did not do a good job of describing them, partially because I didn't really know what they were about. That's No Exit and The Overnight Guest. So we will start with The Overnight Guest. This is a 2022 release. I honestly did not know anything about it. This was a very late addition to this vlog. It was not originally on my list, but I kind of saw it floating around and I was like, oh my gosh, perfect, another winter horror. So I did want to check it out, especially because I know that a lot of people do have this on their list. I did not know anything about this. I just assumed from the title, The Overnight Guest, that it was kind of a very classic snowed-in cabin gets an unexpected visitor, so kind of like Cabin at the End of the World, but again in winter instead of summer. Interesting kind of patterns we're finding here. But actually, when I was reading the jacket, it says that the unexpected visitor is actually a child, and that there's a child found out in the middle of the blizzard, and that's already, like, a lot more interesting than I was expecting this to be. I won't lie, I don't really have high hopes for this, because I think that contemporary thrillers are not really my favorite thing. And I even said in my New Year's resolutions that I was going to leave domestic thrillers in the past. I wasn't going to read anymore. I think this barely is going to scrape by not technically being a domestic thriller. I think this is going to be more of a, like, a straightforward thriller. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, some of the issues that I have with domestic thrillers are found in this book. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I hope I love it. Like, I don't want to read a book that I don't like. I hope that I am wrong, and I hope that this is a lot more fun and a lot more exciting than I think it's going to be, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't have high hopes. This is the book that I will be reading tonight, so we'll see how it goes. And then the next one, No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one has been on my radar for a long time. I've kind of really wanted to pick it up, but I wanted to wait for winter. I'm very excited about this one because it does take place, just like Misery, it takes place in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and I'm excited because it's probably going to take place on the road that I have driven down like literally a million times. I have been on I-70 in the middle of a blizzard, and I can like totally picture the circumstance that this takes place in. So this takes place, a woman is trapped in a snowstorm on a mountain road in the Colorado Rockies. It's a horrible blizzard, like can't see 5 feet in front of you. So she stops at a rest stop, and while she's there, it says that there are 4 strangers and a child there, and she believes that the child has been kidnapped, but she doesn't know which of the 4 people are the kidnapper. And it says not just kidnapper, it says vicious psychopath. So she doesn't know who is the killer or kidnapper. I don't know. I'm assuming there's going to be a murder in here, but anyway, so she doesn't know. She has to figure out who it is and get the child and herself to safety. And this says that this is a tense and clever tale of suspense. I have heard a lot of people enjoyed this one. I don't know what to expect from it. Like, I'm kind of just expecting a really over-the-top, like, ultra thrill ride kind of thriller story, but I really don't know. We'll see. I might love it. I might hate it. I don't know. Have I ever loved, like, a thrill ride thriller? I don't know. Like, I tend not to just enjoy, I do like more literary kind of tilted things, hence why I really loved Moon of the Crusted Snow. Like, was not expecting that, but we will see. I'm gonna give both of these a try. I'm gonna just try to keep my expectations like relatively low, and then maybe I will be super impressed. Hello, apologies for the really grainy lighting. This is what happens in super low light, but I did have just a couple updates on the overnight guest, or like, I guess not really updates, but just interesting thoughts. I'm only on chapter 3, so one interesting thing is that it's funny how the other two of the other books I'm reading for this, Misery and No Exit, take place in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains, where I'm from. And then this book, I had no idea, but this book actually takes place in Iowa, which is where I went to college. So that's kind of a very strange coincidence. This is Azula, by the way. She's right here. That's kind of a very strange coincidence that happened. And okay, so we are getting into the crux of things with this book, and I don't know if I like the main character. The writing's not terrible, which I'm happy about, but a couple editing errors actually. So early on, there's a sentence that had the word barely in it twice. Like, it was like the boy was they had their son when they were barely 18, barely able to take care of themselves, which, like, that's a very small gripe, but the words were literally right next to each other, and it took my brain so long to try to read that sentence. And then on page 22, this is like a full-on error, I'm pretty sure. Again, it took my brain like a long time to try to read this, but the main character's name is Wiley, spelled W-Y-L-I-E, Wiley. And there's a typo where it says Willie, W-I-L-E-Y. And I was like, is Willie a different character, and why would she put two characters so similarly named? But I actually just think that was just a mistake. And it's an odd sentence anyway, because her name is Wiley, and she's saying Wiley, she wondered what her ex-husband would say when Wiley told him da 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 da. So this is a book that's in third person. Third person limited well, there's a couple different perspectives, which I already don't like. But third person limited. So the sentence is saying she wondered what her ex-husband would say when, but then instead of saying she again, it says Wiley, but it actually says Willie because there's a typo. So it's just very strange that it wouldn't have been the other way around, that it wouldn't have been Wiley wondered what her ex-husband would say when she. Do you see what I mean? This is like really hard. I feel like recently I have been seeing a lot of typos in books. Like there's a book from 2022 I purchased at Barnes & Noble, brand new, and it had a typo. It was really small. It missed a quotation mark. And it's weird that I've been noticing so many typos recently. What's that about? Anyway, what do I feel about the story so far? There's two perspectives, and it's like a flashback, past and present, and I don't like that. I don't think we needed that. But the winter vibes are very much here, intense. In fact, the book says that their stores are decorated for Valentine's Day, which means that it's very close to the exact, like, the same time of year that I'm reading it, which is great. We love that. It's extreme winter vibes. It's snowy. It's frigid. It's exactly what we love. So A+ for the winter vibes. Oh my gosh. Okay, updating again. It is 11:20. I am speeding through this book, as you can see, about halfway. Whew, oh my gosh. Okay, I thought this was going to be your run-of-the-mill thriller, and it's like genuinely startled me. Like, I feel scared. I feel creeped out. I was not expecting to feel this from this book at all. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Like, I just feel, I just don't know what's going on at all. This book is told in 3 different perspectives, and there's mysteries in all of them. And the main story in the cold winter house, yeah, that is creepy as hell. Yeah, I was not expecting to feel like genuinely scared by this book because if you've seen my videos, you've known that I have been looking for a book that genuinely scared me, and that has happened. I'm halfway through the book, and we just got one answer revealed, so I'm just like, what? But I did want to update that, like, I kind of can't believe that I was actually scared by this book. I was just not expecting it at all, and I will update when I'm done with my final rating. I have no idea how this is going to end. Do I know how this is going to end? I don't know. I don't even think, like, I'm not trying to predict the ending, really. There's so many directions this could go. I just gotta finish it. Cheers to yet another winter horror book completed for this vlog. Yes, I have finished The Overnight Guest. I read the majority of it last night and then just the end today. very quick read, did not take me long, especially the first half was just so gripping that I read it all in one sitting. So definitely it's that kind of book that you want to set some time aside for. And just generally, I do find these kind of contemporary thrillers very quick reads. So I'm not like a super fast reader or anything. I think these books are just kind of fast to read. And I have finished it, so let's chat. Well, based on what my other updates were from the first half of the book, I was so pleasantly surprised with this. I was definitely going in expecting such like a run-of-the-mill basic domestic thriller, or like not domestic. This is like really just on the line of domestic thriller. It is like creeping up, but I don't know that I would put it in that category because the beginning, especially, there's so much going on, and the part of the story that's actually set in the like winter cabin setting, that is like horror levels. It's horror instead of thriller, which is why I think I liked it a little bit better. Yes, this book is split into 3 separate timelines, and all 3 of the timelines have a mystery, so that's really fun. There is a lot of mystery element to this, but like I said, the snowy cabin one, that is like pure horror, and that was easily the most fun thing. I think that the 3 timelines separate it from its usual like run-of-the-mill contemporary thriller. It does stand apart for that reason, but the downside to that is that I wanted more of the winter cabin scenes. Like it would go flip to a different mystery, and I was like, well, no. When are we going to get back to that creepy freaking cabin? That thing was terrifying, like legitimately terrifying. I can't even remember the last time a book actually scared me. So major props to Heather Gudenkauf for writing a book that scared me, because like Lord knows I have been looking for a book to actually scare me. And this one kind of like, it really kind of got me for a second. The cabin was terrifying. However, the other parts, not so much. And as this is a winter horror, I will feel the need to say that half of the story takes place in summer. Like I said, the winter one is great. It's scary. It's the vibes that we want. The summer one is basic, kind of boring, like still intriguing a little bit, but like nothing special. Oh my gosh. So all of that being said, what did I rate this? I think I will probably rate this a 3.75. I was so close. I was actually going to give this 4 stars, which would be like honestly unheard of for me rating a contemporary thriller. I would have been shocked. Unfortunately, the ending did not deliver what I wanted it to deliver. I think that like if you are a fan of the genre, you're probably gonna like the ending. I kind of wanted it to go a different direction. Like the story that I made up in my mind for what I thought was gonna be the ending, I kind of just ended up preferring to what actually happened, which like there's not a right way or a wrong way. The first half was so compelling, and the second half was kind of like going back into basic domestic thriller, which is not my thing. So that's just the situation. I would have preferred a more horror ending. That sounds bad, but I don't know. If you just read the book and then you'll know what I mean. But so the question is like, would I recommend this book? And I would say actually yes. Like I would recommend this book if you are a fan of the contemporary thriller genre. 100% you should read this book. And in fact, I just found out that this was on the 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards for Best Thriller, Mystery Thriller. And if I would have read this last year, I 100% would have voted for this for Best Mystery Thriller of 2022, because I actually liked it, which is honestly more than I could ever say about most mystery thrillers. However, I think that if you are not into like the thriller genre, I don't know that this is going to tip the scale unless you are specifically looking for like, you know, like you want to start your journey reading thrillers, because I wish that this or something like this would have been like the first thriller that I read, because if it was, I would have been like, oh my god, I have been missing out on this genre. But unfortunately, most of them are not this good. So I guess I'll say well done, Heather Gudenkauf, because you wrote a horror thriller mystery book, contemporary thriller thing that is much better than the average. I still think we could have sweetened that ending, but overall, I'm really happy with this. I was expecting this to be kind of not good, and I literally never give contemporary thrillers more than a 2 stars. So the fact that this got a 3.75, I'm counting this as a win. Then we are down to my last 2 winter horrors that I'm reading for this vlog. The first one being The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I do have this on audiobook. I'm gonna try it on audiobook. I'm kind of worried that it will be so brutal that it will be hard to listen to, and then I'll have to switch to the physical copy, but I'm gonna try on audiobook. And then of course we have No Exit by Taylor Adams. This I'm expecting major winter vibes, winter horror to the max. This is the one that I think is gonna be the most winter horror, which is why I save it for the end. And this one, I think it's just like a very cold and desolate post-apocalyptic wasteland. I don't know if it's actually snow. I don't know if it's actually winter, but it is cold. So we'll see. And I just feel like, I mean, there's no other season that this really fits into. I did try to read it in the summer, and I was like, this summer is not the time for this book, which means that winter would be the time. So we're gonna try it. I hope this is good. I expect The Road to be good. I expect to be blown away. I hope that No Exit is good. So 2 more to go. Let's see what happens. Okay, I've done enough running around today. I have my book. I have my, I got a little cocktail, and we are gonna read for a couple hours and then probably make a winter soup, but I am gonna try to get through at least half the book, maybe more. We'll see. Okay, I am just over 100 pages into No Exit, which by the way is like, I think 330 pages, so not a short book. Sad to say, it's not going super well. I'm 100 pages in and I'm honestly bored. Like, there's not been a lot of tension, even though the main setup has occurred. So I'm just kind of confused. I'm confused how this premise could possibly be so boring and not scary. Like, I'm just like feeling nothing. I feel absolutely nothing. And it does say that there's like a bunch of twists, and it's like ingenious twists. I'm reading the back of the book right now. And I got to the first twist and I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like, at this point, I haven't felt any tension. I definitely don't feel any like chilling sensation. Like, you know, I was scared when I read Overnight Guest. This I'm getting nothing. So that's not great. I'm gonna continue on with it. Like, I'm gonna keep it going, but I'm pretty sad at this point that this is like so not what I wanted. It does have winter vibes though. It's very winter, that is for sure. I really hope that it takes a turn and it gets really interesting and really good, because 100 pages in and so far I'm just like, why? So what? It's giving nothing. Good morning. Sunday morning, and I do have an update, I was gonna say a wonderful update, and it's wonderful in the sense that I finished the book. It's not wonderful in the sense that this was a miss for me. Oh my god. Thank you. I am very upset. I don't know. I shouldn't be surprised, honestly. Like, I really should not be surprised, because when were we told that I was gonna like this? I don't know. Here's the thing. This promised me psychological horror thriller. It promised, it says, what does it say? It says, tense and clever tale of suspense. It says, twists going off like a series of expertly planted detonations, and the tension never lets up. Just all about twists and things. Like, listen, all of that was a lie. A lie. Oh my God. I wanted psychological horror thriller. I got basic B-movie action plot. Like, this, here's the thing. This is not tense at all. At no point did I feel any tension at all. And that is the main problem. Like, that is the issue here, is that when I am going into a horror thriller, I need tension. And this did not give tension. I don't know. People that say that this was tense for them, I'm quite shocked. Like, at no point, like, yes, the characters are in a dangerous situation, but at no point do you, as the reader, feel like the situation is dire, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know, like, why I wasn't feeling tension, because I guess I could understand that, yes, the situation was not great. But I just feel like the writing, while the writing wasn't bad, I just don't think that it actually created any tension. Whereas, like, in The Overnight Guest, I was literally scared reading the first half of this book. I was, like, on the edge of my seat. I was, like, genuinely terrified of what was happening, because there was so much, like, shrouded in mystery, and there was such, like, an atmospheric, like, vibrance to it, and just the situation was just so, like, terrifying that it created this sense of tension. Whereas this one, it seems like this should have a plot that would lend itself to a lot of tension, but just the choices that were made along the way kind of just ripped the tension away from the story for me. So that was my big problem. I did end up giving this a 2.5 stars, so it's not the worst thing that I've ever read. And in fact, for a thriller, I found that the writing was actually, like, above average. I've read a lot worse thrillers. And, like, to its credit, it is at least an interesting premise, whereas some domestic thrillers are just, like, so boring just in the very concept of them. But this at least has, like, an interesting premise. But, like, I won't lie, I was so bored for so long in this book. And I really only finished it because, like, it's an easy read, and, like, I was seeing how the end might, you know, justify this book's existence. It didn't for me. But it's, you know, at least it's not, like, the most mundane thing. Like, there is a story. It's crazy, because I had such high hopes for No Exit. I was literally, like, put this off for so long so I could read it at the perfect time and have it just be everything that I wanted in a winter horror, winter thriller. And that flopped. And then this book, which I honestly didn't even know anything about, and I just randomly picked it up, and I had super low expectations. I thought this was going to be so bad. This ended up being, like, kind of a knockout. So that just goes to show that I don't have taste. I don't know what that says about my reading taste, but definitely when it comes to thrillers, I have been so bad at predicting what I am going to like. And to be honest, I think that there's just, like, not a ton of rhyme or reason for it. I think it's just, like, I want tension. I want chills and thrills. I want to be, like, I want to have a physical reaction to what is going on. And this one just didn't deliver. All right, and that brings us to our very last winter horror of the vlog, and that is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I am going to listen to this book on audiobook today, again, unless that proves to be too much for me. This is a short book. This is not very long. It comes in at just under 300 pages, but the writing is so sparse. Like, honestly, like, the font is like massive, and there's a lot of line breaks. There's a lot of like just dead space on the page. So I think that this is going to be a really quick moving book. So I hope that I have an update for you by the end of the day. I have to clean my entire house, so that will give me a lot of opportunities to listen to this on audiobook. So I will check in with you when I am done with our very final book. And good morning, friends. Good morning. We have reached the finish line. It was not a sprint to the finish line. It was very much a crawl, drag myself across the finish line, fall over the finish line. I mean, honestly, whatever it took to get it done. But I did do it. I did complete The Road last night, in the wee hours of the evening, January 31st. So I did manage to complete my little arbitrary challenge of I read all of the winter horror and thrill that I wanted to read in January. So well done to myself. Okay, let's chat about The Road. So I have not given any updates on this book since I started reading it. I read the majority of it on audiobook, and then I read just a teensy bit of the physical copy. So The Road is a post-apocalyptic thriller. Once again, it's quite grounded. So just like Moon of the Crusted Snow, this is a very grounded apocalypse novel. And what I mean by that is, again, just like there is nothing super fantastical about this apocalypse. There's not zombies running around. There's not creatures. There's not an immediate big threat that's like coming to kill people. Basically, it's just there was an apocalypse and now they have to survive in the kind of ruined world. So this follows a father and his son as they traverse the road as they are trying to travel south to protect themselves from the winter, the cold. So as far as the winter thriller vibes of this book, it definitely does hit on the cold frigidness of this basically barren wasteland. Everything has been burned to ash. So it kind of assumes that there's some sort of climate apocalypse, but it's never actually clear as to what kind of apocalypse it was. It doesn't seem to be a sickness, but pretty much all natural resources have been demolished and there has been some sort of like mass burning. So to me, that seems like a climate apocalypse, but it's never stated really what it is. And really, this is just about this father and son doing whatever it takes for them to survive. They come across some really awful people on the road. They come across some really terrible circumstances. And this book is just very grounded in the sense that it's very repetitive about what happens. They have to go, they find, something, they find a space, they have to figure out if there's anything in it they can use. Sometimes they'll come across people. But honestly, like it's not a very action heavy book, which did surprise me. I expected this to be kind of like a very action driven book, because I know that a lot of people have said that like when they read this, it was very, gut wrenching. And to me, that kind of read more action. But that's not actually how this is. Cormac McCarthy is known for his extremely sparse writing style. There's not a lot of description, but when he does describe things, or when he does have like that poetic sentence, it does hit pretty hard. What I think is kind of the core of this novel is, of course, the relationship between the father and the son, but just them kind of deciding whether or not it's worth it to even live in this world, which I think is a pretty profound sentiment that is one of my favorite parts when reading apocalypse novels. And you really get the sense that they are kind of putting everything they have into just surviving, and it does seem that like every time they survive it just gets harder for them. So yeah, this is a really like emotionally heavy book. I did almost tear up at the end. I could feel my, like in the back of my eyes, I could feel the tears coming, but they didn't actually come. But I was pretty close to crying at the end of this book. So well done there. Yeah. That being said, it's definitely not the most exciting apocalypse read. I think if you are expecting something like big and like, you know, a big like Walking Dead or, you know, like an action set piece, there's just not really too many of those in this book. This is a very intimate, close, character-driven story with just the setting of an apocalypse. So there we go. That was my last winter horror thriller. And I don't want to understate, there is definitely some gruesome things that happen in this book. And I do know that a lot of people who have read this book have definitely been properly mortified. I think I have just read a lot of apocalypse books, so at this point it's pretty hard to shock me, but definitely there's some gruesome things in here. Just not as much as I was expecting. And I don't know why, but I like definitely thought that this was gonna be like, I thought there was like a creature, like an alien or like kind of like, you know, a Quiet Place situation where they're being like chased by monsters. I thought that was gonna be a thing, but it's not. It's actually very grounded, very realistic apocalypse portrayal. Okay, well there we have it. I read 5 winter horrors, these 3 plus Misery plus Moon of the Crusted Snow. So I read so many winter horror, thriller. I really got the full experience, and there is still a solid month left of winter if you are interested in reading some of these winter horror thrillers. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of these, if you are going to pick any of them up, and what is your favorite kind of book to read in the winter time? What do you like to read? I don't know. I just arbitrarily decided that I was going to read winter horror thrillers. And I would love to know what you guys are reading this season. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, month, year, all of it. I will see you very soon. Bye.